during any time during the week, except for some specified time periods. Beginning tomorrow afternoon, we'll let you know when that happens. Transcripts are available immediately following the news conference from ASAP, and video from all press conferences will be available at ncaa.veritone.com. Are you guys trying to call shotgun before you see the car?
No, I'm just saying.
Are you just waving?
I do have a question.
Oh, you're just great general greetings.
I'm calling shotgun.
Oh, here we go. The angle on the iPad Zoom is tough. The video, it's tough. No one wants it. ASAP.com. Jesse, is that where you get the transcript? NCAA.com/transcripts. You got it.
With an S. With an S. With an S.
Transcripts.
Maybe I'll get you a script.
That'd be great.
It's on the bottom.
Once again, head coach of the Houston Cougars, Kelvin Sampson, joins us in just a few moments. A 20-minute interview session with Coach Sampson. If you have a question for Coach Sampson, you can raise your hand. A microphone steward will make their way in your direction. And please identify your name and media outlet before you begin your question. Coach Sampson is here from 1:55 to 2:15. The Duke locker room will open shortly after at 2:30, from 2:30 to 3 for student-athlete availability. And then head coach John Shire joins us here in the main interview room from 3:20 to 3:40. So Coach Sampson from 1:55 to 2:15. Duke student-athlete availability in the locker room from 2:30 to 3. And then Coach Shire down here with us from 3:20 to 3:40. That's what your afternoon looks like here in the main interview room and in other areas. Good afternoon, Coach. Good to see you. Congrats.
Thank you.
At this time, we'd like to welcome to the Final Four and to the main interview room the head coach of Houston, Kelvin Sampson. Coach, we'll ask you to begin with an opening statement, then we'll take some questions.
Really proud of this team. Every team has a journey. It has to start not knowing what they're going to be, just kind of figure out how to stay in the moment early. You know, June, July, September. We start the season so early now. Of course, I'm so old, I remember when season started after Thanksgiving. Now, you may have 5 guys transfer by Thanksgiving. But the team this year is very much a player-led team. We have great player leadership. We have players that really care about each other and the program. And I think that's reflected on how they have handled adversity when they went on the road. We weren't a great team early in the year, but you know, I've seen that many times over the course of the year. Your team gets better and better and better, and guys like L.J. Cryer and J.1 Roberts, Emmanuel Sharp, JoJo Tugler, Javier Francis, Malik Wilson, Terrence Arsenault. We had all those guys back, and that really helped. A guy like Milos Uzan, and he made great progress as the year went on, and I would give a lot of credit for that to our returning players.
Coach, we'll take our first question up front and the center. Dan.
Kelvin, hey, Dan Wolkin from USA Today. There are 6 players starting for the Final Four teams who are 23 and older. Obviously, that reflects college basketball in general getting older. How hard would it be to coach a team, like Duke? I mean, obviously they have great talented players, but a much younger team in this era to get this far?
Well, the thing that, of course, I had a up-close look at Zion James. They didn't start 5 freshmen. They started 3. The brilliance of John is how he insulated those guys with veteran guys, and they don't get talked about enough. Zion James, when he was at Tulane, smart, tough, winner. For them to identify him, evaluate him, and say that's what we need with these 3. Then Proctor, this will be my 3rd straight year seeing this kid. Duke came to Houston when John first got the job, and he came to Houston and scrimmaged us in October. And Proctor and Filipowski and I can't remember the other big kid. He's with the Dallas Mavericks now. But I remember watching that team, and Proctor's a pro. I don't know if Zion is or not, but he is a professional role player. It's exactly what they needed. And I think you can get away with playing some freshmen as long as you got veterans around them. But those guys stopped being freshmen somewhere around Thanksgiving. By Christmas, hell, they might have been sophomores. Now they're just pros. So, but they have a good team. John and his staff's done an excellent job developing this team from, I think they lost to Kansas, is that right? Early. Lost to Kentucky early. And that was probably part of the plan. You may lose those games. People lose their mind, but people that lose their mind ain't coaching the team. He is. I think he had a plan. But let's throw him out there, and if we have some success, fine. If we have some failure, that's fine too. We want to be the best version of ourselves when we get to February, March, and now we're in April. So I have a ton of respect for him. I'll tell you how good John Shire's been. Nobody talks about him replacing Coach K anymore. He's John Shire. He's got his team in the Final Four. I think that speaks volumes of him. Good for him.
Coach up front on the right, Aaron.
Hey, Coach. Aaron Beard with the Associated Press. I'm curious, you just talked about the transfer portal and all the changes that have gone on. I am curious how much that's affected your enjoyment of the job and the challenge of building a championship team, considering how drastically different it is from 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
I don't think that necessarily applies to my program, though. Last year we brought 1 kid in the portal. Our program is very much a homegrown program. J.Wan Roberts is in his 6th year with me, this basketball program. Emmanuel Sharp came in as a freshman. Dan was talking about the 23-year-olds. When J.Wan Roberts came to us, he was 17. Jamal Shedd was 17. Javier France was 17. JoJo Tugler was 17. All our guys come in as freshmen, and they stay. So I've talked to some of the coaches that have retired this year because I wanted their perspective on things. But we just do the best we can, running our program the best way that we know how to run it. And I love coaching basketball. I love teaching I love teaching. I don't know what I would have been good at had I not been a coach, because that's the only thing I've ever been. But I think I would have enjoyed being a teacher too, because I enjoy teaching stuff and seeing kids learn and apply it and have success with it. And I choose to focus on that stuff more so than the portal. I believe in the portal. You better. But in the last 3 years, I think we've had 3 portal kids, LJ Cryer, Damian Dunn, and Milos. Those have been our 3 portal guys. And they've Damian left and went to Pittsburgh, where he did good this year for Jeff. But LJ and Milos have been great.
Coach, back of the room, left of the aisle, Mike.
Yes, Kelvin, it's Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News. I wanted to ask you, in that discussion about the players that have stayed with you for so long, what is it about how you are able to retain guys in this atmosphere, and how much of it is the culture that you built through the program?
That is all it is. You know, we put our I think our secret sauce, Mike, has been our staff. You know, we just lost. We're going to, when the tournament's over, or whenever it's over for us, Quanos will be taking the head coaching position at University of Louisiana. Used to be Louisiana Lafayette, but you know, we all got sophisticated and changed our titles, so they're the University of Louisiana. But to the old guys, it's Louisiana Lafayette. Come on, man. Don't forget where you come from now. But he got the head coaching position there, and he's going to kill it. He's going to be awesome. But Kellen, this is Kellen's 11th year. Hollis Price's 11th year. Quanis' 9th year, I think. Casey Beard, 11th year. Lauren's 10th year. Our players look at our staff as family. All of my auxiliary staff that we have in our program were former managers. I don't take resumes and I don't take phone calls. I hire everything from within. You know, everybody thinks they need to go hire the best recruiter or the best this. You know, we develop our staff like we develop our players. You know, and that's culture. We don't have a lot of signs in our building. I don't know what those signs mean anyway. But there's one sign that you'll see a lot in our building. It just says culture. It's how you do anything is how you do everything, right? Being on time, treating people with respect, having the right attitude every day, giving great effort every day, and whatever it is you're asked to do. And our kids are pretty good at that.
Coach, in the back of the room, right of the aisle.
Hi, Coach. Kiana Martin with CBS Sports. And there's obviously been a lot of talk about you guys' defense, but on the other side of things, we've seen an uptick in three-point shooting this year in particular. What do you attest that to? And also, how has that maybe changed you guys' ceiling this year?
Yeah, I think the difference has been Milos. Emmanuel was a sophomore last year, but Emmanuel had a horrific, traumatic leg injury in April. I think it was April of his junior year in high school. His dad was his high school coach at Bishop Catholic in Tampa. So we called his dad and got him to let him graduate a year early, and so he could come and do all his rehab with our doctors and trainers. But he was a really, really good player. And we knew that once he got going here, he was going to be good. But the key that all our guys have stayed is they've allowed us to develop them. LJ Cryer was he was outstanding shooter at Baylor with Scott, and the Baylor staff did an awesome job with LJ. I think he had 30 against Creighton in the tournament before he got with us. So it's not like we got these kids and turned them into something they weren't good at. That's why we recruited LJ, was his three-point shooting. So I recruited Emmanuel. But last year, in between those two was Jamal Shedd. And Jamal was not a three-point shooter. and we said, how can we make our team better? I've never worried about losing players. You know, everybody, the narrative with most guys when the season's over or before the next season starts is how will you replace this guy? How are you going to replace Jarris Walker, or Quentin Grimes, or Marcus Sasser, or Jamal Shedd? I've never really worried about that. That's never, I mean, I'm going to miss him. But, you know, the challenge of the coach is, okay, we're losing Jamal. How can we get better? And I thought that's where we had a chance to get better, to be a better three-point shooting team. We weren't going to be a better defensive team. I mean, Jamal's the best guard defender I've ever had. It's hard to get better, but the team can get better. You know, name on the front of our jersey didn't say Jamal Shedd, it said Houston. How do we make Houston better? So Milos was a kid that shot really good his freshman year at Oklahoma in the Big 12, not so much his sophomore year, and so we tried to research why. Why did his shooting go down? And is that something we can develop? And so we figured that out, and the answer was yes. And, you know, his three-point shooting has really helped this team. Terrence Arsenault off the bench, you know, he and JoJo didn't get to play in the tournament last year because they were both injured. Everybody talked about Jamal Shedd injury, but the injury that hurt us more than any other one was JoJo Tugler not playing. But Malik Wilson has gotten better as a three-point shooter, Terrence, and then the three starters. So we collectively have more guys that can make a three. We've gone from being a three-point shooting team to a three-point making team. There's a difference.
On the right side up front, John.
John Fanta, Fox Sports. Kelvin, kind of a two-parter here. How much does 1980 to 85 Montana Tech, the early wake-ups, and, you know, taking snow off the car and getting ready to, I can see the flashbacks right now. When you went through those types of days and, you know, you get mentored by Judd and others, how much does that build you for your first days when you got on this job, and what made you believe, all right, the things that Houston says they're going to do to elevate our program as I'm elevating it are actually going to occur?
Yeah. You know, Tom Izzo and I text each other a lot. We actually used to be roommates at camp, Michigan State's basketball camp. We had bunk beds. I can't even remember who was on top, the top bunk or the bottom bunk. But you know, when you're a grad assistant for Judd Heathcote, you're really a manager. And if you think you're more than that, he'll find a way to remind you if you screw up. And I was always really good at screwing up. But Tom and I would get up so early and go out behind old Jennison Fieldhouse. The old guys know what I'm talking about. New guys only remember Breslin, but there used to be Jennison Fieldhouse. And we would line a court off in the parking lot so we could play. And we had these portable baskets we'd stick up. But Judd's the only reason why I got the job at Montana Tech, and he's the only reason why I became the head coach at 31 years old at Washington State University. So, and Tom and I talk about Judd a lot. Tom said yesterday, he said, if you and I had been playing each other in the Final Four, Judd would have probably been up there, want to know why we didn't play any zone or something. And he's right, Judd would have found something, that's for sure. But those days for me, as all four coaches here, and there's far better coaches out there than I am that didn't make the Final Four this year. But that's why the feeling of coming here is not one of accomplishment. Is for me, maybe because it's my ages, but it's more gratitude. You know, just grateful that you still have an opportunity to do this. Houston, the only reason I took the Houston job was to get my family back together. We'd been apart. Kellen had just gotten fired. I'd been fired. Kellen got fired. Lauren didn't like her job. So, for me, it was, where can I go where they'll let me hire my children? If they had had a nepotism law where I couldn't do it, I wouldn't have taken that job.
Up front on the left of the aisle.
Coaches, there's kind of a divide in this Final Four. You got you and Bruce Pearl, and then you got two guys that are young enough to be your sons.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I hadn't quite looked at it like that, but I will now.
You and he have negotiated difficult waters and been through adversity. And how much does that mean? And could you also just address the same trend toward younger head coaches being hired these days?
Yeah. Well, I coach against my son Kellen in scrimmages all the time, and he's always kicking my butt. So I'm used to getting beat by younger guys. I think it's great for the game because the game should always be about the future. We should honor the past, but we shouldn't live in the past. Sometimes we do that too much. I saw that at Houston. All people ever talked about at Houston when I got there was Phi Slamma Jamma. And I'm thinking, none of the kids that I'm recruiting, nor their parents, have ever heard of that. That's the past. Honor it. Let's honor those guys. But for God's sake, don't live in the past. When I look at Todd, John, makes me feel good about the future of the game. I still think Bruce has got a lot of good years left. He's a youngster. He's only 65. Maybe not so much for this old one, but the game is in good hands with the young coaches, and I think they're better set up to navigate these choppy waters that we have in front of us than maybe the old guys that coached the game when there was no shot clock, no three-point line, and then we had a 45-second shot clock, and most of these young ones didn't even know that. But I know I learned from them. There's a lot to be learned from these young guys. How they do things, their ideas, their energy. There's a lot of things I don't know. I've always been pretty good about not knowing what I don't know. But I've learned a lot from Kellen and Quantas and Hollis and KC. I learned a lot from my staff. And I encourage them to call up other people and ask how they're doing this stuff. Because I didn't know anything about NIL or I should think it was sacrilege if you transferred it inside your own league. That would never have happened. So now, it's just a different time. But with guys like Todd and John and so many other great young coaches, I think they're better prepared to handle this stuff as we move forward.
We'll take one last one from Joe in the center.
Joseph Duarte, Houston Chronicle. Kelvin, Karen told us a story about when you were gearing up for your first Final Four at Oklahoma. The excitement was you were going to get to have that Friday open practice. With COVID, you probably didn't. Did you get to enjoy 2021, or is this sort of, how does this one feel because of everything the first time around, and maybe you didn't get to enjoy it?
No, that's a great point, Joseph. I think everybody that was in the bubble in Indianapolis got cheated out of the experience. The only place we could go was the floor that the elevator opened onto your floor. That was it. You couldn't go down a floor. You couldn't go up a floor. We had to stand in line to get tested before every time we went outside the building to come in. I felt like we were going out to the yard in prison because they took us over to Victory Park to let us run around on the grass, you know. And somebody had the great idea, why don't you go get a football or horseshoes or something? I mean, what do you want us to do? You know, look around and see how we can break out of this place? So that was a different time. It's hard to explain it. I didn't see Karen during the entire time. We played our first game against Cleveland State, and then we played the game to get there in Lucas Oil. So first two games, next two games, and then the next two games was the Final Four. And we left. There were 68 teams, like in two hotels. You know, Indianapolis has those little walkways you can go from one building to the next. And so, you know, one day I had Porter Moser from Loyola next to me, and then at the end I had Porter Moser from Oklahoma next to me. You know, then I had Mick Cronin. Then I had Mick Cronin over here, and then I had Musselman from Arkansas, and God only knows where he is now. So that was something else. But you know, like coming in here yesterday, the bus we were on had the Final Four logo with our team. The hotel we're staying at. What's the name of the hotel we're staying at? Huh? Yeah, Riverside. The staff there was just awesome. With a mariachi band, you know. For me, fine, but for those kids, for them to get that experience. And then last night we went over to get a meal, and people stopping them, and because they've seen them play, you know, the last 3 or 4 weeks. That's what this is all about. It's a reward. They should be rewarded for what they've accomplished. You know, and tomorrow the public scrimmage, and of course, you know, you're just entertainment for 50 minutes. It's not like we're going to go out there and, you know, bust some drill out. You know, our guys know what we're doing. We had we just had a public practice somewhere. Where was that? Yeah, Indianapolis. So, no, it's awesome. The fact that you guys are here, I mean, we didn't do anything in Indianapolis. We won 4 games and then lost to Baylor. And we could have played Baylor 10 times and not beat them once. That's how much better they were than we were.
I want to thank Coach Sampson for rewarding us with his time. Congratulations again, and welcome to the Final Four.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Coach. Duke's locker room opens for student-athlete availability in 10 minutes at 2:30 until 3 o'clock. Coach Shire joins us from 3:20 to 3:40 here in the main interview room. Thanks, everybody.